Hi there. Are you wondering why you started your podcast? And are you thinking about how you did it? And now you're this far into it and you're like, why am I doing this? Well, this podcast, this episode is going to dive into that, dive into the mental anguish, the pain, the frustration, the irritation, the pissed off feeling, the anger, the overwhelmed feeling that you feel when you hit that wall when you're making your podcast. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. And I'm going to start by telling you about Trish. She was undone, laying in a hotel room, just in pain. She had just had some really traumatic things happen to her. She had gone through the death of an ex-husband who was her friend, who was very young, a traumatic death. She had been trying to date different men and just failing over and over again, and realized she was just alone and feeling lonely and feeling really sorry for herself. She stood up in the dark hotel room, pillow in hand, walked over to the closet, opened the door, and crawled down on that floor and laid her head on that pillow. And she pushed the record button on her iPhone, and that was her first podcast. She just vomited all this information about dating and how she would stand up and redo that over again. And from that very first podcast, she got this itch to help people, to make a podcast that would make a difference. She wanted to talk about real life stories, real life events, real life experiences, and how a person might be laying flat on the ground, nowhere to go, not knowing what they're going to do, and then stand up and redo something over, do it over the right way, learn from what they learned what they did in the past wrong, make it better. And she decided that her podcast, it was an easy decision for her, was going to be called Stand Up and Redo. And that was actually her real name is Petra. That's me. So I started this podcast. I knew I had to do a bunch ahead of time. I had to get ahead like 5 episodes. So I recorded just 5 episodes of real life stories about me and how I stood up and I redid something after experiencing something that was maybe traumatic, maybe challenging, maybe difficult, realized what mistakes I made, and then decided how I was going to redo it. And in my brain, as I was thinking about my podcast and why I wanted to do it, I knew I wanted to dive deeper into it as time went on and do real life interviews with real life people who are struggling. So my desire to my podcast was honestly to help people, to bring about change, to make people not feel alone, to make people feel supported, like what they were going through was something that other people had gone through. And not just by sharing my stories, but also by eventually interviewing people who had gone through some real life trauma, some just, struggles in life. And that was my goal. What was your goal with your podcast? What were you thinking to do? What was your motivation? And when you think about what motivation would have been or could be for any person making a podcast, it could be that you have like this amazing skill that you want to share, that you know how to do stuff. You know how to fix a bike. You know how to fix a snowblower. You want to talk about stocks. You want to talk about like baking. You want to talk about childcare. You want to talk about even just decide that you want to create a podcast just to make money. Maybe you're going to figure out what a niche could be, what you could dive into, what you could research, what you could share with people that would get the most hits, that would get the most interest. So you could have a really successful business with your podcast. Maybe your idea was to just expand it beyond one podcast to multiples. Whatever your desire was and how you decided to do it and the why of why you chose to do your podcast is important. And I think that's what we have to remember as we're diving into this process and we hit that wall, maybe just 3 episodes in, maybe 20 episodes in, was why did we do it in the first place? What was our motivation? What made us decide to start doing this? So we have to think about that why. And then we have to think about the how. The how is the part that for me was actually, it's like a journey. Like when I started my podcast, I had no idea what I was doing. So I was researching other podcasts, watching YouTube videos. I knew what podcasts I liked, and they were all over the place. Loved like Stuff You Should Know. Love Huberman Lab. I love it. I love things about science. I love listening to even like stories. I liked ASMR things to listen to that would calm me down at night, that would make me fall asleep. I just really enjoyed a variety of podcasts, anything that could teach me, help me. And then even when I was struggling with dating. I was listening to dating podcasts, which I'm not struggling with that anymore, thank goodness, because I'm just not really focused on dating. That's like on the shelf back here because I have to do that for survival. But that's way sidebar. I way got off the topic here. But so talking about the why you did it, remember that. Remember that when you're 2 podcasts in, 3 podcasts in, 4, the why, and then the how as you think about the process. I don't know if you maybe did tons of research before you ever did that first episode, or if you just like me, just went, I shouldn't say this, balls out and just decided to publish it without even knowing much about it. And that's what I did. I decided that I was going to work it. And I feel like if you're going to start a podcast and you haven't started it yet, you almost have to dive in and just start it because there's so much to learn that you can't possibly retain it all. You have to kind of like go through the process, the learning process, and just get one out there quickly. So when I think about the how and the mental anguish of the how, that's where I am right now. I am over 25 episodes in at maybe 25th episode. And I hit a wall right now because in my heart, I chose this topic of stand up and redo, and it's very broad. So the first thing you hear is get an audience that's very specific, an age, a specific group of people that like a certain thing. So if you think about stand up and redo, that's a huge, broad topic. So I'm like, at this point, I'm a 50-year-old woman. Do I dive in and change the name of my podcast to Living Authentically Over 50? But yet I'm like, okay, I'm really still interested in just interviewing people, telling stories about stand up and redo situations, even going to people's houses and sitting in their own kitchens or sitting on their porches or sitting outside and talking to them about their real life and how they experience something that you might have experienced in your life and have no idea that so many people share the same minor experiences or major experiences or trauma that is just beyond what you can even understand, or just a relatable person that truly, truly has redone their life after they hit rock bottom and never thought that they could redo it again. So my desire is that. So if I think about living authentic after 50, I am living authentic after 50. That's me. I'm doing things I think that a lot of over 50 single women wouldn't do. I really do believe that. And I'm realizing that more and more because it's really hard for me to find people that do the same things that I like to do. But that's another thing that's neither here nor there. But I thought if I change the podcast title to Living Authentic After 50, is that going to get me more attention? Because it would be so focused on living after the age of 50. But I want to hit an audience of younger people too. I feel like the information that we as 50-year-old women share with our younger generations is just so valuable. And I think it should be done. I think it can be done in just story form, sharing our life experiences, almost like maybe your grandparents did when you were a kid, before we were so wrapped up in the internet and so wrapped in with having our heads on the telephone or in the iPhone, not a telephone, in like a smartphone. So I think about when I was a little girl on a weekend, if I went to visit my grandmom, I didn't sit on the couch on an iPad. I didn't sit on my phone in her kitchen while she was running around or doing whatever. I actually spent time helping my grandmom cook dinner, doing the dishes, taking a hike with my grandmom, spending time talking to her. And the wisdom that she gave me as an older woman was just valuable, so valuable, hearing her stories about real life. And I feel like that's what I want to do. So if you have created your podcast and you're not into it a year yet, and you are feeling very frustrated because you only have 20, 30, 40 followers, and you're just thinking about all of these tips that you're getting, that you have to advertise on social media. Oh, wait a minute. Don't advertise too much on social media because then the algorithm can't work its magic. So you're learning, like, do I put it out there right away? Do I advertise on my own Facebook and my own Instagram? Maybe not, because then it's attracting my friends and then the algorithm isn't like analyzing it properly. Or am I supposed to put it out weekly? And then I heard today I was listening to another woman who's like, no, you put out good quality. It's not all about just putting out weekly. It's about putting out good quality. Meanwhile, you're hearing this, you're hearing that, you're being pulled. It's almost like that story where you hear about the young man and the little boy and the donkey, and how at first the man has the little boy on the donkey, and then everyone's like, get the little boy off the donkey. Why aren't you on the donkey? Then the man gets on the donkey, and then they're like, how could you hurt that donkey? He's too little for you. Like all this stuff, they're just listening to all this advice. Well, with your podcast, Go back to why you did it. Are you really doing it just to make money? Or are you doing it because you want to enjoy it for your life? If you think about the fact that if this podcast takes off and it's a really big hit, do you want to make sure that you're talking about what you want to talk about? And I was thinking about how I put out 3 episodes on my dating life. I took them down because I got the most hits on them, but then I realized I didn't want to be like a guru about dating. And at least not when I was emotionally like damaged. I thought I need to take these down. So I took them down and I'm happy I did because I really was going in a different direction. And I thought, I don't want to make that what my podcast is about. So when you're thinking about your podcast and you're hitting a wall and you're thinking, I need to change what I'm doing, I need to make it different, I need to change it, give it more time. Give it time. If you're truly being authentic and you're truly focused on what you like to do and what you like to talk about, and that's the reason you started that podcast, don't give up. Don't give up. I'm telling you this because I'm like 20, 25 episodes in and I'm only getting like 40 hits. Sometimes I get 50. Of course, the ones that were a little more controversial got like over 100. Like, but I'm just telling you to keep it up because I'm giving it a good year and I'm not going to quit. And it's hard, it's hard. It's a lot of work, but it's also very joyful. It's very fun to do the research. It's very neat to see just little things. I'm trying all of them. Like I'm trying to put my podcast the same topic that it should be. I'm asking AI questions. I'm doing research on YouTube, of course, because YouTube is just amazing. I love YouTube. I'm putting out my YouTube video first, then I'm switching it to audio. I'm doing all the things that I think you're supposed to do or that I'm hearing that you're supposed to do. I'm trying at least. But I hit a wall. I hit the wall, the mental anguish wall, where I feel like it's just stagnant. And I'm trying to understand what my watchers, viewers, listeners want to hear. But I also want to make it enjoyable for myself. I want to make it valuable. I want to make it fun. And I'm still going to track that way. And I'm still going to stay with my stand up and redo title, even though for a brief moment I thought I needed to change it because I thought this is not successful. This is not working. Well, guess what? I'm not giving up and I'm going to stick with it. And I'm episode 25. So after this, if I can get through this mental anguish, if I can do it, and I can keep going for 1 year, I put my first one up in July. If I can go and not give up until July and just keep doing what I love doing right now, because I'm loving this. I'm really, really, really enjoying the process. And I'm not looking right now. I eventually would love to be successful with it and to make it worth it where I felt like it was valuable financially for me to do. Because if I'm going to continue with this gusto and this energy and this time, because it's a huge time commitment, if I'm going to continue with this time commitment to this podcast, I do want to see it pay off financially. However, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up. It's only been 25 episodes. It's only been since July. It's been every single week since July. I don't think I've missed one. And I'm telling you, the mental anguish is brutal when you start to feel like you're failing. But guess what? I'm not going to give up. And I'm going to ask you, when you're doing this, to not give up. And my stand up and redo is that I'm going to go into 2026 with a vision and effort. And I'm even going to work harder. I'm going to research more. I'm going to try to share more valuable information with you, the listener. And I'm also going to enjoy the journey. And I'm going to share things with you that are going to be helpful for you to stand up and redo. And that is my 2026 vision for my podcast, Stand Up and Redo. I'm keeping the name the same still, not changing it yet. I might change it in the future, but right now it's still called Stand Up and Redo. And right now it's going to be about how you and me can stand up and redo. Thank you.